Joyce, Joe Parker. Why are these two giants with us here?
Because these two giants are going to fight each other and see who's the best giant.
Listen, I'm very excited to be signing with Boxer and you know, Sky.
You know, Joe Parker's not the ranked #1. He's not the mandatory. Joe Joyce is. This is the Joe Joyce business. You want to get that spot, you've got to beat Joe Joyce.
Yeah. Taking the lead, we don't follow. We need it now, not tomorrow. Don't care what they say.
Why don't we just make the fight happen? Just because he's on BBC Sports and I'm on Sky doesn't mean we can't make it happen.
It's hard to be one of the greats, whatever it takes. Put that on the plate. Life is a gamble, we raising the stakes. Moving the bar up so high. Been on our grind for life. Bringing the light, you just so bright. We shining.
Edging closer to the inner circle. Just got Joe Parker to beat.
Changing the world with this rhyme and this price.
A lot of people don't want to fight Joe Joyce because he's got an engine on him and he can take a punch and he can do a lot of damage.
Every day we chasing. No time to be wasted.
Yes, welcome to Manchester. It's weigh-in day, and I'll tell you, it's a big fight week here, and you cannot have a big fight week in Manchester without this man. Have a look at this. I think this is going to be too close to call if it goes to the card's fault. From Ricky Hatton. Costa-2 could take no more, and Ricky Hatton has done what he set out to do. A lifetime ambition has been achieved. Yes, that's right. The one, the only, the king of Manchester himself, Mr. Ricky Hatton is with me. How are you, Rick?
Great to be here. We've had some great nights in Manchester over the years, and I think this is going to be another one. Real great trade fight, two great boxers, two of boxing's nice guys really, but yeah, I think the fans are going to be in for a treat again.
You look great, by the way. You look great. You've done a ton of weight, right?
I've done a ton of weight. I had my exhibition scheduled for July 2nd and it got postponed. But I've kept on top of things, kept training, kept trim, kept in the gym, and it's now going to be November 12th, you know, so... But I think it's a lifestyle change for me personally anyway, to be honest with you, you know. I never bothered putting weight on before because I always knew eventually I'd be back in training camp, but now I'm knocking on a little bit. There's not going to be 2 more training camps to go back into, is there? So, no, for the sake of my health, this is the new Ricky Hatton. Yeah, Ricky Hatton's gone.
Ricky Hatton's gone. Look, I like the new Ricky Hatton. So you mentioned there about the exhibition. We'll just have a quick chat about it now. You know, someone else is fighting an exhibition this weekend. His name's Floyd Mayweather.
Floyd Mayweather, yeah. He's,
what do you think of that?
Is it in Saudi Arabia, is it? Or Dubai or somewhere like that?
I think he's in Japan.
Oh, he's in Japan?
Japan this weekend, Tokyo.
Yeah, he's fighting a Chinese YouTuber, isn't he?
I think so. Could it be in your future? Little rematch in an exhibition? How about it?
I haven't looked that far, to be honest with you. You know, doing this one with Marco Antonio Barrera, which is going to be a real treat for me. He's a legend. If you're a boxing fan and you don't like Marco Antonio Barrera, there's something wrong with you. But I haven't looked really much past this, but I mean, I'm enjoying doing the training camps for these exhibitions. It's giving myself a goal again. I'm looking after myself. I'm healthy. I'm in the gym. Yeah, so you know, get this one out of the way, and I'm going to keep, like I said, I'm going to keep on top of things, and if an offer comes through to do another one, I'll most definitely look at it, because I'm all for these exhibitions. And I think when you make a comeback, I think everyone's worried about seeing the heroes get knocked out. But that's in the exhibitions. That's not the case. You get the chance to see them showcase their skills for one last time, maybe, and nobody gets hurt. So I think I'm all for these. Yeah. So if another one came up, who knows?
Who knows? Look, that fight is going to be at the Manchester Arena.
Manchester Arena, yeah, my living room.
I refer to it as the house that Hatton built.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're there on Saturday night. You must have some amazing memories of that arena, and we've got another great fight to light it up on Saturday.
Yeah, it's a great fight. It's a 50-50 match-up, to be honest, I think. I think maybe some people would, probably edge towards Joe Joyce, just simply because of the reason he's unbeaten. He's really motoring now, isn't he? And Joseph Parker is former WBO champion. He's done it, bought the T-shirt, anti-Joe, and has been in some great fights, some up and downers. But he trained in my gym last night, Joe. Had his last shakeout with Andy Lee, and he looked razor sharp. Looked like they've got a good game plan here. That they've not come here to play games. Like I've no doubt Joe Joyce is looking fantastic, and he's not come to play games. But the one thing is, I think Joe Parker is performing better than he's ever done, because he's up there in Morecambe with Andy Lee and Tyson. Andy Lee, fantastic trainer. Tyson, laughing minute. He seems in a happy place, a happy camp. You know what I mean? And it showed last night when he was in the gym. I've no doubt, Joe Joyce has had a good training camp, and he's in a good place as well. But I mean, I think this is the best Joe Parker's looked.
You said that he looked like he was hitting particularly hard last night. Do you think he can hurt this indestructible chin of Joe Joyce?
Well, it is a chin, isn't it? But yeah, listen, it's the heavyweight, division, and he's got good hand speed, he's got good boxing ability, Joe Parker, and Joe Joyce, even though he's very effective when he does it, he throws lots of long shots and arcing shots, doesn't he, round the houses. So I think Joe Parker will find his chin, especially early on, and I think early on Joseph Parker will put a few rounds in the bank. But in them early rounds, he's got to make a dent in Joe Joyce, hasn't he? You know what I mean? And in making a dent, he's got to leave a little bit for the home straight, leave a little bit in the tank, because we all know he's got such a good chin, Joe Joyce. He'll keep coming and coming and coming and coming. And I think it'll be a case where Joe will be in front, for most of the fight. But he's got to leave a little bit in reserve for that home straight, hasn't he? Because we know Joe will keep on coming. And but no, Andy Lee is a very, very good trainer. They seem to have the game plan sorted last night. It's a 50-50, and the boxing family, in boxing we're a family, aren't we? I consider Joe Joyce and Joe Parker both my mates, so it's hard talking
nice
like
blokes,
this. They're two nice guys and that, but I tell you what, there'd be nothing nice about this fight. I can't help but think that this has the potential of being a right barnstormer.
Tell me, if you were Joe Joyce's trainer for this fight, how would you tell him to box Joe Parker? What's his route to victory? You're in the corner with him.
Well, I think he's got to keep him marching back, which Joe Joyce will do. He'll try and hold the centre and keep him on the end of the jab with big backhands. But I think Joe Joyce will. Joe's good. He's good at staying in your face and keeping his opponents backpedaling and working the legs. You know what I mean? Keep him moving. With Joe Joyce, you've got to be moving them feet for 3 minutes around pretty much, because he's in your face. He's got that awkward, pouring long jab that only travels that far, but it's so effective.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he's going to be working Joe, and that's where Joseph Parker's got to try and be sensible, hit him hard, find the target, outbox him, but try and leave a little bit in reserve, because we know he's going to come all night, Joe Joyce.
How much of this fight do you think is going to be mental? In terms of, there's going to be a lot of pressure applied from Joe Joyce. He's going to be all over him. Well, we think anyway. He's going to be all over Joseph Parker for as long as the fight goes. And Joe Parker's got to stay switched on. And we've seen in fights before, sometimes he takes little breaks, sometimes he will switch off a little bit. How much is it all going to be played out up here?
Well, I think Joe Joyce will have it in his mind that they probably expect to lose a few of the early rounds. Do you know what I mean? Because Joe Parker is a fantastic boxer. Do you know what I mean? He looks really, really. He's going to be really, really sharp. He's going to be in the best shape of his life, because he knows he has to be. Because I keep repeating myself, because he's so on the front foot, Joe Joyce. But I think Joe Parker will bank a few of the early rounds, and I think Joe Joyce will expect that. As long as he's working Parker in the early rounds, he will believe he will get him down the home straight. And I know Joe Parker will thinking, listen, he'll be probably thinking the same. I'm going to bank a few rounds early, but it's going to be them hard rounds down the trenches where he's going to have to leave a bit in the tank, and he's at some point in this fight, Joe Parker's going to have to really bite down on that gum shield and dig in. You know what I mean? Certainly, you know, I think in the last couple of rounds, Joe Parker would have had to work so hard to keep him off it and keep him at bay. He's going to be flat out, and he'll have to bite down and show a bit of that bottle and heart, which we know he has. He's shown it in the past. And that's showing that heart, that determination. It doesn't matter about the game plan. Once you get into the trenches in certain fights, which is where this will probably end up, the game plan goes out the window, and he'll have to just dig in and show a bit of heart, which we all know that's what he's got.
Look, one of the questions heading into this fight has been, has Joseph Parker got enough dig about him, enough power, enough pop in his punches to keep Joe Joyce honest, to keep him at bay? What do we think?
Well, I've met Joe on several occasions, and when I saw him last night and he was in the ring in my gym, I forgot how big he actually is. You wouldn't say, as far as heavyweights go, that Joe Parker's a concussive puncher, but I think he's hitting harder. I think he's improved technically. And the thing is, because he's got the speed and the boxing ability, and Joe Joyce can be a little bit open, his punches are a little bit round the houses, you like to think that Joe Parker won't. He'll find the target. He'll find the target plenty. Do you know what I mean? Whether he dents that chin in doing it. But if I was Joe, I'd maybe try and sit in close. Easier said than done. You know, because I mean, to get in close, you've got to get past that long jab of Joe Joyce's. But I think if he's not known as a body puncher, but if he concentrates on the body more than usual in order to try and slow him down that way, because we all know that's solid as a rock. Yeah. But if he has a little bit of a constant, you know, not a constant, but a regular body attack, more than he normally would, I think that might help slow Joyce down. But ultimately, he's got to get past that awkward pouring jab, which will be Joseph Parker's main problem, I think.
Have you met Joe Joyce? Have you been up close to Joe Joyce?
Yeah, I've met Joe several times.
I've
been down the gym. When I had a heavyweight, Nathan Gorman, we went down sparring with Joe. Two cracking lads, nice lads, and he does everything wrong technically, doesn't he? He does everything wrong technically, because you know when you're in there in the heat of the moment, you know, when someone slips to the left, you know a body shot's coming or a right hook's coming, or when someone slips to the right, you know that's coming. But Joe's so unorthodox, he'll throw a right and then change it at the last minute and come over there and like that. So he's so difficult to read. On the end of that horrible pouring left jab, that's what the biggest problem that Joe Parker's going to find. But I've no doubt they've obviously worked on that. And either way, you know, Joe Parker's never found wanting. Joe Joyce is always in your face. I can't help but think that this is going to be an unbelievable fight. Tell
me about the Tyson Fury effect. Joe Parker's up there now. He's part of the family. He's pretty much Joseph Fury. How much of an impact will that have on his career moving forward? It seems to have it really lifted him just to have that Tyson
But I said
effect.
earlier that he's improved under Andy Lee. That's no doubt. But it reminds me so much of my gym back in the day when there was me, Michael Gomez, Anthony Farnell, Matthew Macklin, Paul Smith, my brother Matthew, Steve Foster Jr. It was nobody worked harder than us in that gym, but it was fun. It was a laugh. You had to be looking over you. It was like Jackass. You had to be looking over your shoulder every 5 minutes because somebody was going to do something.
Pull your pants down, yeah.
So as hard as you're working, it was fun. You look forward to going to the gym. And I bet Joe up there in Morecambe with Tyson, you know, and Andy and all the guys, they're all characters, you know, in that gym. He looks like he's not just improving. He looks like he's happy. You know what I mean? He looks like he's in a happy camp, and you know, sometimes this boxing game gets so hard every day doing the same things. You need to have that little bit of a laugh, that little bit of a release, and he's getting that. And I think all things considered, with what the differences Andy Lee has made and being around Tyson every day of the week, that's why he's performing better than he's ever done.
Well, look, one of the things that Parker has said is that when he used to box, actually in that period where he was the world champion, he sort of wasn't doing it for himself. He was doing it for his trainer, he was doing it for his dad who wanted him to be a boxer, and when he became a world champion, he didn't really feel fulfilled. And actually it led to a bit of a mental health downward spiral for him. Now he's up in that camp, he's uplifted, he's doing it for his immediate family, and he's doing it for himself. Can you relate to anything of what he said there?
Yeah, he's he probably felt, you know, that he wasn't in felt that he was in a gym. Probably felt he wasn't in a family unit. and he probably thought, this is me against the world, it's me on my own, anything like that. But, you know, every training session, you know, when you've got good people around you, you know, when it's getting tough and it's getting hard, come on. And it's like, when he looks in that eyes, you know, in Andy Lee's eyes, he'll know that, you know, Andy Lee's not there for the paycheck, you know, although, you know, it's his job, but I mean, he knows he's there for Joe Parker. You know, when Tyson brought him in, you know, for him to improve and succeed, but, you know, when Tyson puts his arm around him and turns around and says, you know, like, every person in that gym, when Joe looks in their eyes and they talk to him and they're giving him advice and they're willing him on, they're there. He knows they're there for Joe Parker, because that's what that camp is, the proper people. And that's what he'll be feeling, the love of being in a very tight-knit family. And I'm not saying that, you know, where he was previously, because I mean, let's have it right, he won a world title.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't doing much wrong, was he? But when the training gets hard, it gets very repetitious. You know, you're running, you're dieting, and all that. You know, you need to have a little bit of an arm around you, because sometimes in training you get down and depressed and you think, oh God, I've had enough of this rubbish, you know what I mean? But no, I think he's in a happy family, and what he's doing in the gym showing in the ring.
Do you think Joe Joyce has been underrated a bit? Because some of the things you've said there, he's like, he does everything wrong.
Massively. You know what I mean? There's only going to be elite fighters that are going to beat Joe Joyce. He does everything wrong. And I say that with love, Joe. But you know, you wouldn't teach a youngster to punch like right. in some respects what Joe does, but that's what makes him so unorthodox and awkward. He uses it to his effect. I think if I could sum him up in one word, it'd just be a handful. Do you know what I mean? He throws his punches, he holds his chin up, he throws the shots too wide sometimes, you know, but they land, and they're heavy-handed, they're heavy. And if anyone's going to beat Joe Joyce, it's only going to be an elite heavyweight, and or Joe Parker. He's capable of beating Joe Joyce, absolutely, very capable of beating Joe Joyce, but he'll have to be Joseph Parker's best performance, and I think Parker knows that.
Were you surprised the way Joe Joyce approached his fight with Daniel Dubois? Because that was, at that point, the biggest fight, the toughest fight of his career, and a lot of people were expecting Daniel Dubois to just blow him away. Absolutely. Because Joe Joyce keeps coming forward. But he didn't that night. He used his jab. He boxed. And
I think that's I mentioned earlier, I'm repeating myself a little bit, but that's, you know, that's the difference. I said if he'd like to get close and make a little bit of more of a body attack than he would normally do in previous fights in order to slow him down that way, I think that would be the way forward. But, you know, the hardest part he's got in the fight is to get past that jab. You know what I mean? You know, to get there, you've got to get past that, and that would be the most difficult part. But I mean, I think they've been in the gym, they've been working on a lot of speed, fast feet, you know, to cover the distance, quick in order to move in. And he has got good feet, Joe Parker, for the big guy, you know, and I think his feet will be as important as his hands in this fight. You know what I mean? He's got to choose the right moments, a little feint here and there, a little change of pace to take Joe by surprise in order to get past that jab. Little subtle, sneaky things like that is what he's going to need.
One of the storylines that's emerged around this fight is that Joe Parker, and it's not just for this fight, but in previous fights as well, he's been seeing a psychologist. Is that something you've ever done in your career? Because Joe Joyce was like, oh, maybe it means he's a bit mentally weak around the fight. What do you think?
It's, I mean, to be honest, I'm mentally weak. We all know I've mentioned my problems about mental health. I've over the years, I've had to see a psychiatrist, you know, in order to get me back on, to get me on track and that. And there's no shame in doing that. And that might be part of Andy Lee's training methods. Go and speak to someone. It makes you feel better. Because I know when I go and speak to and I know it's for a different matter, you know, that's non-boxing related, but ultimately it's the same thing. You go and, you know, spill your beans and spill your heart out to someone, you feel better about yourself. And if, you know, going to see a psychologist, that if he sits down and has a little hour just having a little chin wag about this and that and all the rest of it, and it makes him feel better, just add that on top of it, you know, on top of everything else that he's improving in areas, you know what I mean? And maybe Tyson might have advised him to do that, because I know Tyson's, you know, the mental thing with Tyson has been a big factor in Tyson's life. So that might be. I can't help but say if that is what he's doing, I think it'll be a good move. You know, if he's doing that, it obviously works for him.
Talk to me about Tyson Fury, because when he was on his comeback trail, he was up in your gym, him and Ben Davison, and he was losing all that weight up in your gym. Can you believe where he is now?
Absolutely not. No. Yes and no. because Tyson is a very unique character. You know what I mean? I saw him through his bad times. I mean, I didn't, you know, I used to bump into him in Manchester every now and again, you know, for having a drink, and I wouldn't say on a regular basis. It was only a handful of times, but he was very, very big at the time, and he was, every time I saw him, he said, "I'll be back in the gym next week," and I was thinking that's not going to happen. And I was thinking to myself as a friend, just get your weight on track and just get yourself together. And then I didn't see him for a while, and then I saw him, and he kept losing the weight, and talking more positive and everything like that. And then and to get down to performing like he was, to see him in my gym, he was even sparring when he was like 20 stone, 19 stone, where he was still big. Lightning fast, movement, fantastic. I used to think, this is freaky. This shouldn't really be happening. And it was great for me to see him, you know, on the mend and on the better. And it was great for my my up and coming professionals, you know, to stand there and watch Tyson go through all these training camp, getting his mindset, getting his weight set, just everything. It was a joy to watch. And you know, he only had like a handful of little comeback fights, and then he's in with Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, and you were in the corner
one of the
that night.
biggest punches in heavyweight history. And even I thought, might be a bit too soon this, and you know, the story goes on, doesn't it? You know, I mean, how he got knocked down, and we thought he should have won it, but then he won the rematch, brilliant. And then it was one of the best fights we've ever seen in the third fight. I feel very blessed to call him a friend, to be honest with you. And there's nothing more to prove now. Hopefully we can get the fight on with Anthony Joshua, because it's just a history maker, isn't it? It'll go down as one of the biggest fights in British boxing history, the biggest fight in British boxing history.
The country will stop still for that.
And I think if AJ and Tyson have quiet moments to themselves, I don't think either would want to hang the gloves up until they sorted business out, you know, because they don't want to be sat on the sofa in years to come thinking, I knew we should have boxed him, I knew we should have got that done. Well, they've got a chance to do it now, and it looks like we're halfway there. It was done last week, but now it's got on the back burner and that. So as a fight fan, you're frustrated, but hopefully they can get it over the line.
Just cross your fingers. How do you see that fight playing out? And also just a note on Anthony Joshua, because it feels like if he does take this fight, there's no real pressure on him, because not a lot of people are picking him to win this fight. Does that make him more dangerous?
No, I mean, I get why they were saying, you know, back in the day, 50-50, you know, and all that, you know, but Tyson's giving him a 60-40 because the tides have obviously turned. That 40 is still a massive payday for AJ, great payday. He's come off two defeats. But AJ will be thinking, listen, his 2 defeats have been by Usyk, you know what I mean? No shame in that. But because he's come off 2 defeats, everyone's favouring Tyson now, you know what I mean? So like you say, he's got nothing to lose. He can go in there and throw the kitchen sink at it. And I think if he goes and throws the kitchen sink at it, he's certainly got a better chance, because he performed a lot better against Usyk when he threw the kitchen sink at it a bit more, didn't he? You know, so it's very interesting, yeah.
What about Tyson Fury against Usyk? Because that is the one with all the belts on the line. That is number 1 against number 2. How do you see that fight playing out?
I think Tyson beats Usyk. I mean, Usyk is like a one-off. Fighters like that come along, only every now and again, you know. Olympic, you know, gold medal, you know, undisputed cruiserweight champion, undisputed heavyweight champion. You know, I mean, he's an obviously unique character, and Tyson is such a special talent. He's got everything, but Tyson's got everything Usyk has got. You know, the movement, the footwork, the boxing skills, and that. But Tyson's bigger, and he's got the bigger reach. He's heavier, and I think he's probably as fast as Usyk. I would probably say.
Probably.
So yeah, I get that. You know, Usyk would have a good chance in fighting Tyson, but I just think he's got too many physical advantages, I think,
too big.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just too big. So this fight is for the WBO Interim Heavyweight Championship on Saturday night, Joe Joyce and Joe Parker, and the winner of it becomes the mandatory for Alexander Usyk. How do you rate their chances against Usyk? Because that's how the chips could end up falling. And let's start with Joe Joyce, who boxed him in the World Series of Boxing.
Joe Joyce, he'd have a great chance against Usyk. He would start as an underdog, but you know, he's I keep repeating myself again, like I said, he's a handful. He's on you all the time. He punches from awkward angles regularly, constantly, and heavy every time. His jabs only travels that far, but it busts you up. Do you know what I mean? If you can't get past it, and when you look at Joe Joyce and Alexander Usyk, he's got I just think he'd have a great chance against Usyk. He could probably overwhelm him, a little bit. Where AJ's a little bit more patient and a little bit slower. Joe would keep coming, and that's the way you beat talent. You take by taking it away from him. You work a little bit harder, keep the punch volume up, stay on him, and that's how you've got to. So in order to beat Andrew Usyk, you've got to take his talent away, which obviously means plenty of pressure, plenty of shots. You know what I mean? Right game plan, obviously, but no, I think he'd have a great chance against Andrew Usyk. Usyk would be a favourite. Well, goes without saying, but I mean, if we're talking about has Joe Joyce got a chance, I'd say yeah.
Well, Usyk's got a win over him in the World Series of Boxing, but it was a shorter amount of rounds. The gloves were bigger as well, and it was sort of semi-pro.
Well, you could see how the amateurs would suit Usyk with his movement, pop, 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 like he does. But 12 rounds is a different story. Joe Joyce over 3 rounds and Joe Joyce over 12 rounds is a different matter. But he'd have a good choice. He'd have a good chance.
What about Parker?
I think Joseph Parker might struggle a little bit, only because styles make fights. And like we said earlier, Joe Joyce has got the style to give anyone problems, let alone someone like Usyk, a little bit shorter and like that. Where Joe Joyce would probably, Joe Parker, beg your pardon, would probably have to work a little bit harder. There'd be a lot more at close quarters. Usyk could keep the pressure, and Joe Joyce could keep the pressure on Usyk and do it all from a distance, all at long range, where Joe would have to probably try and get close to Usyk. And would he be able to have the success knowing how slippery and slidey and talented Usyk is? Styles make fights. I think Joe Joyce would have a better chance than Joe Parker against Usyk, simply just because of his style and his size. Yeah.
Tell me, you obviously you had Parker in the gym last night. You had Andy Lee in the gym. Let's talk a little bit about the coaches. What did you think? Well, actually, we're not going to talk about the coaches. We're going to throw over because they're going to start the weigh-in. So let's watch the weigh-in, Ricky.
Absolutely.
Let's have a watch. Thomas Triber's going to start introducing the fighters when his mic's on.
It's a handful, Joyce, isn't it? Cheers, mate. It's a handful, Joyce. Joe Joyce would take it to him, but he could keep it at a distance. Funny to take it to him. Joe Parker would have to get in close, and I think he might get settled.
Well, we're going to hand over now to Thomas Triber, who is awaiting his cue, and I'm sure that cue is imminent. We're here in Manchester for a huge Manchester Fight Week. Joe Joyce, Joseph Parker collide for the WBO Interim Heavyweight Championship. I'm delighted to be in the company of the hitman Ricky Hatton, a man who's lit up Manchester Arena so many times over the years. And Ricky, look, I mean, what are your memories of the MEN as it was known there? Like the top one, is it Kostya, right?
Yeah, Kostya, the greatest night of me boxing life. It was nobody expected me to win it. Everyone expected me to get a good hiding, but the support there was unbelievable, and the atmosphere, there was such a nervous tension where everyone was behind me, but I think even my beloved fans thought, it's going to be a tough ask this for Ricky. But,
so yeah, even your fans thought it's going to be a tough one for you.
I did, yeah, and there was like a nervous tension. There was a great atmosphere. You could cut it with a knife, but there was like a nervousness, because I think even though they went, come on Ricky, we can do it, but I think a lot, even my fans didn't share my enthusiasm. But the atmosphere, for a Mancunian in Manchester, fighting one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, probably one of the best light welterweights of all time.
So we did get subdued, yeah.
Yeah, that don't come to that they don't happen in Manchester too often, but it happened that night, and I think I couldn't have written the finish for him to, not for me to even knock him out, but for him to sit on his stool and say no more. It couldn't have ended any more perfectly.
So you prefer that to a clean knockout?
Absolutely, because I mean, it's like no more. Get away from me, Ricky. You know what I mean? But afterwards, I grabbed the mic and asked the fans to congratulate Costa Zoo on a great fight and for being such a great champion. And he grabbed the mic and said, "You were the better man, and if you ever need any help, you know where I am. I'll always be there for you." And it's like my best fairy tale stuff. It doesn't happen that way, does it? And it did. And I bet there's not a week goes by whether I go out in Manchester for a beer or whether I'm just in the supermarket or the shops where someone doesn't say, "Oh, well, that night in Manchester against Costa Zoo." Every week, mate. Every week, and it makes me so proud.
It's etched into the memories of many fight fans, including myself. You've said, I've heard you say before, that you feel as though your greatest achievement was actually your fan base. We're going to have a look at what's going on here. But
ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the official weigh-in as we get set for a great night of World Championship Boxing tomorrow at the AO Arena, Manchester. It is all being brought to you by Frank Warren on behalf of Queensberry, along with their great sponsors, 32 Red, Foot Asylum, and Unibet.
Hatton, Manchester royalty, and it's Joe Joyce and Joseph Parker this weekend. Got a couple of issues with Thomas Triber's mic, but yeah, Ricky, I was just speaking to you about, you've mentioned before that you feel as though your greatest achievement, despite everything you've achieved, was the fans that you had.
Yeah, well, I had some great fights,
This great event will be televised live on BT Sport box office beginning at 6 p.m. local time. We are going to begin the weigh-in process with two combatants competing tomorrow night in a scheduled 4-round international light heavyweight contest. We will first welcome to the scale from Croatia. He has a professional record consisting of 20 wins, 34 defeats, 2 draws, with 5 wins coming by way of knockout. Let's welcome to the scale, Tony Usyk.
Will be the opponent for Tommy Fletcher, his second fight on Saturday night as a professional. It's an impressive
204 pounds, 8 ounces for Tony Usyk. Now we welcome to the scale his opponent tomorrow night from Norfolk. Undefeated with 1 win. That 1 win comes by way of knockout. Let's welcome to the scale, Tommy, the Norfolk Nightmare Fletcher.
Fight number 2 for Tommy Fletcher. What do we think of that nickname, Ricky? The Norfolk Nightmare. You must like a bit of that.
Well, I don't think he'll jab and move by the. I don't think he'll jab and move by the sounds of his nickname, but.
204.
When I think of these youngsters, we're talking about, the Manchester Arena and how many great nights I had there. I still remember the nights when I was on the undercard, of Nassim Ahmed, when I was, doing 4-rounders and 6-rounders, you know what I mean? And because of all the great nights at the Manchester Arena and all the legends that have fought there, what an opportunity for these youngsters here that are weighing in, that are doing the 4-rounders, the 6-rounders, you know what I mean? What an opportunity, because of the fights and people that have been there. It's like a little bit of an iconic venue. It's like a bit of a England Madison Square Garden, because of the big fights that have been there. You know what I mean? So for these youngsters to be appearing on the bill at the Manchester Arena on a world title eliminator, it's a day that they'll stay with them forever.
Yeah, 100%. Tommy Fletcher, I believe, is actually the float on Saturday night. Have you been a float before?
I was a floater on my professional debut, yeah. I should have been on at 7:30 and I got on at 12 midnight. It's terrible hanging around. But the reason why he is a floater is because they want to see him on the TV. And if they want to see him on the TV, that means he must be a talent, So let's hope he has a good night come tomorrow.
Well, he hits very hard. He's trained by Mark Tibbs. Mark Tibbs said that he's hits as hard as Deontay Wilder. So
really?
Yeah, he's got high.
Mark's an exceptional trainer. He knows what he's working about, and that's high praise. And you wouldn't want to give high praise like that to come back and bite you on the backside, would you? So obviously he can hit, yeah.
In a scheduled 4-round super lightweight contest. First, we will welcome to the scale from West Bromwich, West Midlands. He has 2 professional bouts to his credit. Let's welcome Carlo Wallace.
Fight number 3 for Carlo Wallace. He'll be in the red corner on Saturday night, taking on young prospect Amar Akbar. Filling up here in Manchester for the weigh-in. Plenty of public here, plenty of media, cameras everywhere you look.
For Carlo Wallace. And now we welcome to the scale from Batley, Yorkshire. Undefeated with 3 victories, here is Amar, the Prodigy Akbar.
He's brought a few fans with him, Rick.
Yeah, a few fans with him, yeah.
143 pounds and 4 ounces.
It does help you though, having a lot of support, family and friends behind you, and it's obviously going to be a nervous night to fight after just 3 fights, fighting at the Manchester Arena. So yeah, having a little bit of a fan base there, that does help you at stages like this, because obviously they'll be very, very nervous. It's a big step and a big occasion for these youngsters. So that'll do him no harm, having a little cheer from his mates and his fans.
When did it start for you in terms of the fan base? Because it must have at some point just been like these guys here, right? Where he's just got maybe 50, 60 there all cheering his name. When did you notice that suddenly, hold on, I've got all of Manchester behind me?
Junior.
Well, it built up over a period. I always was a decent ticket seller personally by just my family and friends. But then we started boxing on the same bill as Michael Gomez and Anthony Farnell. In fairness, we built our fan bases up together. Michael Gomez was British champion, and obviously Anthony Farnell became a WBU champion. I mean, and obviously no disrespect intended, they didn't go to where I got, but we helped each other build our fan base, the 3 of us. You know what I mean? In fact, I'd say they were bigger ticket sellers than me, Anthony and Michael, back early in the day. But I mean, when I went on to further things, I'd like to think Michael Gomez and Anthony Farnell's followed me. You know what I mean? So it's, 'cause that's what we are in Manchester. We're a family. You know what I mean? It's a really down to earth city. You know what I mean?
Well, this is a Liverpool man that we've just seen on the scales. The Wizard, they call him, James Hennigan.
I wonder what he's got up his sleeve.
Sorry?
I wonder what he's got up his sleeve. Was it too early for the joke like that?
No, I welcome and encourage these jokes. I'm actually holding back myself, so if I can start doing them as well, I'm all for it.
5 wins, 2 defeats. 2 of his 5 wins come by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Delmar Debo Thomas.
Delmar Thomas in against the Joe Gallagher trained Callum Thompson. We see Joe Gallagher off shot at the moment.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends in the Gallagher gym. Obviously, Joe for one, Mark Efford, who's also on the bill. So good camp to come out of. It reminds me very much of my camp when back in the day there was Anthony Farnell, Michael Gomez, Steve Smith, Matthew Macklin, Steve Foster Jr. You know what I mean? And when you're training around talent, it rubs off on you. And all the, Scott Quigg and Nancy Collar are helping Joe Gallagher out now as well. So these youngsters, how much experience and benefit are they gaining through being in that gym?
Well, yeah, they're in good hands. I went to see them the other day. I saw Mark Heffron, and when Joe Gallagher's not taking on the pads, he's on there with Crawler. He's there with Quigg as well. The experience is unreal in that gym.
Middleweight contest. First to the scale from Sacanta, Cordoba, Argentina. His professional record, 10 wins, 6 defeats. 7 of his 10 wins come by way of knockout. Here is Martin Bulacio.
Well, here comes Martin Bulacio. the Argentinian, first fight outside of Argentina. And this will be fight number 17. He'll be taking on Mark Heffron.
Treat him very tough in Argentina, and I think he'll have to be. As we know, Mark Heffron, a ferocious puncher. But they are very, very tough from that part of the world.
From Oldham, Lancashire, England. His professional record, 28 wins, just 2 defeats, 1 draw, 22 of his 28 wins coming by way of knockout. He is the current British, Commonwealth, and IBF Intercontinental Champion, Mark Kid Dynamite Heffron.
Here comes Kid Dynamite. You've had him in the gym before over the years, haven't you, Ricky?
Yeah, I've done a bit of coaching. He come to me for a short while, Mark. He's had a trip round the gyms, Mark, and he's ended up back where he started, and it's obviously worked for him with the British title. I think he's been better since he moved up to super middleweight. I think, you look at the size of him, the shape he's always in. I think that middleweight took a little bit of stamina, took a lot of gears away from him, to be honest. I think since he's moved up and settled at super middleweight, he's looked a lot more comfortable and a lot more explosive, So, it's nice to see him. He had a few speed bumps along the way, lost a couple along the way, but it didn't dishearten him. He stayed at it, and he's an example to youngsters out there. We all want to have an unbeaten record, don't we? But just because you get the odd defeat here and there, if you learn from it, you can come back, and that's where Mark is in his career at the minute.
100%. Just a reminder to anyone who's just joining the stream, we are here at the official Joyce Parker weigh-in, and I'm joined by the hitman Ricky Hatton. We're watching this, we're taking it all in. We're hoping to grab a chat with Joyce and Parker after they weigh in. And let's get back to Thomas Treiber. Let's have a look at these fellas. Mark Heffron, a bit of a welcome home fight. Last time he boxed at the Manchester Arena, he was stopped by Liam Williams. It was a bit of an upset, and I spoke to him about that fight, and he said it was probably a bit too much too soon. He said the fans were all cheering for him, and his legs went a little bit. He says now he's coming back with confidence, and he can take that. Does that ever happen to you when the fans? Has it ever sort of made your legs go a bit weak when you?
Everyone's built differently, aren't they? To be honest with you, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, with every defeat, he's obviously gone back to the gym and put whatever he did wrong right. And like we mentioned earlier, moving up in the weight, he's a lot more comfortable now. Everything that the defeats that he has had, he's obviously took it on board, and he's learned and moved on from it. And that's why defeats, they can be sometimes they can make you or break you. They can be the best thing for you or the worst thing for you. And Mark's very dedicated. He absolutely loves the game. And if anybody knew that could bounce back, it'd be Mark Heffron, because he's that type. Yeah.
Well, I'm next to a hitman, and we're about to hear from another hitman, the new hitman on the blocks, Nathan Heaney. Is he worthy of the nickname? Ricky, you gonna let him have it?
Well, he's a good kid. He's very similar to me. He has a great following as well, doesn't he? You know what I mean? So. But this is a 50-50 fight for me. It's a little bit of I wouldn't say a make or break him. It's not going to break him. They can come back, as we've just been talking about. But it's a great clash of styles. This, do you know what I mean? Sometimes Heaney can tire down the home straight, and so he's got to. He'll have them.
Flatley, yeah.
Flatley, yeah. He'll be coming at him all the time. So it's. But Flatley can be a little bit wide open at times, can't he? Sometimes.
Have you had him in the gym at all, Flatley, over the years? He's round your way, Bolton.
He probably has been in the gym somewhere, all over the years. But sometimes he can be a little bit open defensively. I don't know whether Heaney I wouldn't say Heaney's a murderous puncher, but he hits well enough. But it's the shots that you land, they can mark you up, can't you? Even the small ones, over a long drawn fight. So. This will be an interesting one, this. It's a real pick-em fight for me.
Well, Jack Flatley says that he thinks they've only picked him because he's going up from super welterweight, and Nathan Heaney's a natural middleweight. It's a fight that was never on Jack Flatley's radar, so he was a bit surprised when it came around. Let's see if there's much of a size difference.
Yeah, and he's nothing to lose then, Flatley, has he? To be honest, he can go in there and give it his
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, these two competing tomorrow night.
Doesn't look much in height.
Round contest for the IBO International Middleweight Championship.
Looking at them both there on the scales, they don't look much in height, doesn't look much in frame. to be honest with you. The key is when you're moving up in weight, he will, Flatley will probably put very little on, where Heaney will bulk up, and that would be the interesting thing. I don't think they'll both look the same on the night.
So you think Heaney's going to blow up a lot more than that?
I think so. He's more natural at the weight, and if if Flatley's moving up, then obviously he won't carry them. He might put the weight on, but it wouldn't be natural, would it?
Exactly. Very intriguing fight. People are saying it could be the toughest fight of Nathan Heaney's career. We'll find out. I think we're about to see Raven Chapman and Jorgelina Guanini.
She brings a professional record consisting of 10 wins, 4 defeats, 2 draws, 1 win coming by way of knockout. Let's welcome to the scale, Jorgelina Guanini.
It's another Argentinian for you, Rick, and they come tough. There's a photo on her Instagram of her and Marcos Maidana, and she says she's hoping to sort of fight like him.
Marcos Maidana, hell of a fighter.
Were you ever linked to a fight with Maidana, or did the eras not quite overlap?
No, I mean, to be honest with you, there wasn't many who didn't fight, to be honest. I think the fight was mentioned, but I don't think there was a few fights that I just missed the boat, and Maidana was one of them. Miguel Cotto was another. It was talked about and mentioned, but then obviously we went in another direction. Mickey Ward was another one that was always mentioned, but it wasn't through the want of me not wanting to fight them or them not wanting to fight me. It's just that we went another route. When you think that I fought Pacquiao and Mayweather and Castillo and Collazo and that, it wasn't a case of avoiding them. It was just you just want the right time, I guess.
Well, it seems like it could be the right time for Raven Chapman on Saturday night. This is fight number 4 for her. And look, Guanini is going to come to fight. She's just taken the unbeaten record of Stevie Levy. She likes beating young Brits. Let's see what's going on in this face-off with Raven Chapman.
Women's WBC International Featherweight Championship.
Well, there's an important title on the line for this fight. Raven Chapman, of course, wants to fight Amanda Serrano one day. She shared a table with her yesterday at the press conference. Apparently she's sharing a Nando's with her after this weigh-in as well, and it feels like she's manifested.
Can I go with him?
I'm sure that'll be no problem. It seems like she's manifesting this fight. Ever since I met her, she's dreamt about fighting Amanda Serrano. Amanda Serrano doesn't box over here. She's not with Frank. Suddenly she's on the same show as her. Suddenly she's on the same press conference. So she's going to share the ring with her one day. What do you reckon?
Yeah, you know what I mean. If does the business tomorrow night, there's every chance it could happen. I mean, to be honest, ladies boxing is absolutely flying at the minute. It was a shame. I mean, we sadly lost Queen Elizabeth II, didn't we, the other week? And I appreciate the boxing show got cancelled. What a night of boxing that would have been, an all ladies boxing show. But ladies boxing has come on such a long way, and there's a great opportunity for her if she wins tomorrow night.
100%. That's one of 2 ladies fights on the show. Of course, Amanda Serrano in a unification fight against Sarah Mahfoud. You're looking at Samuel Antwi, the mandatory challenger for the British welterweight championship, and he's taking on Echo
defending champion from Nottingham, undefeated with 17 wins. 7 of those wins come by way of knockout. Here is the reigning and defending British, Commonwealth and IBF European welterweight champion, Echo the Engine Essuman.
Fight number 18 for Echo the Engine Essuman, unbeaten British, Commonwealth, IBF European champion, taking on his mandatory in Samuel Antwi. How does the Engine look on the scales to you, Rick?
Looks in great shape there, and he's fighting his mandatory, So obviously for this fella, I've not seen the opponent, but I mean, to get to the mandatory stage, he obviously must be well and truly worthy of it. But you look at the belts that he's got there, Commonwealth, IBF. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot on the line here. He needs to win it because of them belts round his waist and over his shoulders. He's got some great opportunities on the line in front of him, hasn't he? So he can't slip up tomorrow night.
Can't slip up. There's also bragging rights. There is Queensbury versus Boxer, part 1 of 2. Of course, Joe Parker with Boxer and Joe Joyce with Queensbury, we have Echo Esmond with Queensbury, and Samuel Antwi with Boxer. A little subplot to what should be an excellent show on Saturday night. What can you read into these face-offs, Rick? I mean, you've done so many over the years. Do you ever take anything away from them?
No, it never bothered me, to be honest with you. In fact, I take that back. The only one it bothered me was for the Mayweather fight. But I wanted, he'd been winding me up on the 24/7, getting in my face and this and that. And he comes to the weigh-in and we went face to face and he leant forward on me. And I stuck the nut on him a little bit. But I wanted to let him know that he hadn't unrattled me or anything like that. But that was very out of character for me. But I was able to cool and calm down straight after. But normally at these, I never show no expression. I never, I was always very difficult to read. People couldn't make up whether I was eyeballing them or not bothered or scared, And I think it used to frustrate my opponent. So depending on the individual, it can be quite an important part of the build-up.
I remember you got on the mic after that one. You say, "Who are you all here to see?"
Yeah.
The Apache Kakachi.
Big moment in the career of Anthony Kakachi. It's been a stop-start career. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, and he is due a breakout fight, taking on Italy's unbeaten IBO World Super Featherweight Champion Michael Magnesi.
129 pounds and 8 ounces for Anthony Kakachi.
When he looks the part, the Apache,
defending world champion
straight on the fluids.
From Cave Lazio, Italy. He is undefeated with 21 wins. 13 of his 21 wins come by way of knockout. Let's welcome to the scale the reigning and defending IBO Super Featherweight Champion of the World, Michael Lone Wolf Magnesi.
Well, there's your pronunciation from Thomas Triber. I've been calling him Magnesi all week. It's about levels. Magnesi. How about that, Rick?
I just say the Italian chap. I don't pronounce in Italian names. I think I do a worse job than you.
He looks ready.
129 pounds for Michael Magnesi.
His training team proudly holding up that IBO belt. We're going to get a little face off here. Anthony Kakachi said in the week that the style that Magnesi has is perfect for him. When he looks across the ring at someone with a style like that, it's like Christmas comes early. He's going to come forward and he knows exactly what he's going to do. A bit of nose to nose here. Magnesi refusing to take his eyes off the Apache. So they do finally walk away.
That one, yeah.
Who won the face-off? What do you reckon?
I don't know. I think it was even Steven won it. One went closer, and the other one went a little bit closer, and the other one where they couldn't get any closer, wasn't it? So. But no, I think I remember Anthony Farnell and Michael Gomez. When I used to get on the scales, look, all right, shake hands, and Michael Gomez, Anthony Farnell will be jumping all over them, trying to kill him. It was like everyone to their own, you know what I mean? And I was always 9 times out of 10 very placid at the weigh-ins.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next two combatants to the scale competing tomorrow night in a scheduled 10-round contest. It will be for the WBO, WBC, IBF, and IBO Women's Featherweight Championships of the World. Brought to you by Frank Warren on behalf of Queensbury in association with Most Valuable Promotions. We will first welcome to the scale, coming to us from Copenhagen, Denmark. She is undefeated with 11 wins. 3 of her 11 wins come by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the current IBF Women's Featherweight Champion of the World, Sarah Mahfoud.
For the first fight outside of Denmark, for Sarah Mahfood, unbeaten in 10 years. She is the world champion, but she's in very tough against Amanda Serrano.
124 pounds and 9 ounces for Sarah Mahfoud. And now we welcome to the scale her opponent tomorrow night, fighting out of Brooklyn, New York, USA, by way of Carolina, Puerto Rico. She has a professional record consisting of 42 wins, 2 defeats, 1 draw. 30 of her 42 wins come by way of knockout. Here is the current WBO, WBC, and IBO Women's Featherweight Champion of the World, Amanda, the real deal, Serrano.
Well, a bit of moment of history here for Amanda Serrano. Her first fight in the United Kingdom. She's wanted to fight here. And what an epic night that was against Katie Taylor. It feels like that fight really moved women's boxing forward.
Not one of the greatest fights in women's boxing history. That was without doubt. I think in boxing history, it was absolutely unreal. And what a pleasure to have a tough opponent. Obviously fighting another world champion, but I mean, what a pleasure to have her in Manchester. And if it's half the fight it was against Katie Taylor, we won't be doing too bad. But I think the Danish girl will have to go some to take the belts off this young lady.
Yeah. Well, look, especially when Amanda Serrano goes to Nando's with Raven Chapman afterwards as well. I mean, she's going to refuel, right? 7-division world champion Amanda Serrano in the Guinness Book of World Records. All business here.
In a scheduled 10-round contest, it will be for the WBO, WBC, IBF, and IBO Women's Featherweight Championships of the World.
Well, I think she tried to make Sarah Mahfoud jump, but I'm not sure she did. I think she tried to make her flinch, but Sarah Mahfoud held her nerve. It's all a bit of fun at this stage, really, with that, wasn't it?
No fun and games, no fun and games at the minute. I think that I could never concentrate on the fight weighing day. All I wanted to do was nail the scales, go and refuel, and then I could concentrate on the fight. So a lot of this eyeballing is probably, I guess, to get the edge, but more getting a little bit itchy because they're starving hungry.
Would you think they're looking in the opponent's eyes and they're just actually seeing food?
Yeah. Nando's. Yeah.
Well, of course, Amanda Serrano was seeing Mahfoud, not food, but huge fight.
And the thing is, the weighing, we're out the weigh-in, everyone's getting on the scales, and we say about people eyeballing each other. It's one of the most important part of your build-up. It's the most important part of your build-up to the fight. It doesn't matter how many rounds you've done in the gym, how many rounds you've sparred, how many weights you've lifted, or anything like that. If you don't nail that weight perfectly, and do it bang on, you might as well have not bothered in the first place with all your training, because that's how it can affect you. So it's this is obviously this is every bit as well. It's not as important as the fight, but it's not far behind it. Trust me.
What would you do directly after the weigh-in? I mean, would you have to hang around for some interviews? You normally get a word with the host broadcaster, right? And then what do you do?
I used to have I used to fuel up. I used to have my recovery shakes and certainly different certain drinks in order to rehydrate. Obviously, when you're making weight, your stomach shrinks a little bit, so the fluids I had early on just to open my stomach a little bit, and then I'd introduce me food. Probably wouldn't eat, for 2 or 3 hours after, probably about 3 hours after the weigh-in. I just, got the vitamins and the minerals in that I needed to do, rehydrated, opened my stomach a little bit, and then got the food in. So it's a work of art making weight, and also not just making the weight, what you do after your weigh-in. There's no point in you filling yourself with a load of rubbish, you know what I mean, or eating too much.
Well, let's grab a word with Amanda Serrano. Amanda, please jump in the middle. Amanda, Ricky, Amanda.
Okay.
You've just faced off with Sarah Mahfoud. There was a little bit of trying to make her flinch. Talk us through it.
He wasn't trying to make a play. He was just trying to get a reaction. You know, I'm used to having fun in the weigh-ins, and you know, my last fight with Katie Taylor, we were smiling at each other. We was enjoying. I guess she's in the zone, but I'm usually a happy-going person.
I was speaking to Ricky, and Ricky said at these weigh-ins, when he's looking into a fighter's eyes, he's just thinking about food. Were you thinking about food?
No, I was thinking about drink and water.
That's what you think of sometimes, you know. And once you've hit the scales and you can replenish, and it's so important what you do after you've made the weight, how you introduce the fluids and the food and everything like that. It's such an important part. So I get why people are sometimes fighters can get a little bit tetchy at the weight, because it's so. If you don't do them scales right and you don't eat correctly after, it doesn't matter about all the training you've done. Sometimes you won't be able to put that into practice if you balls this up.
Amazing ovation for you. I mean, you must have expected it, right? Manchester have really taken to you.
No, it's been amazing. Like I said, the last couple of fights been big fights. I've been under the big lights, and I'm truly honored to be where I'm at now as a female, and I'm excited to see the future.
How does Sarah size up now that you've been that close to her? Can you take anything new away from that?
No, I'm just ready. You know, I train hard. I know she trained hard, and I'm just ready to go out there and add 2 more belts to my collection.
Give us your final sort of fight prediction before we let you go. How's it going to play out?
Well, protection, a lot of pain. That's what I predict. A lot of pain. But I really want to say something important for me. That's to me. I'm dedicating this fight to all the women out in Iran, you know, who are fighting for their rights and fighting for their lives. You know, this is for them. I'm with you guys, and I dedicate this fight to all you guys, all you beautiful women out there.
That was beautifully said, Amanda Serrano. We will see you tomorrow night. Good luck. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we are going to weigh in our main event participants. They will be competing in a scheduled 12-round contest, and it will be for the vacant WBO interim heavyweight championship of the world. It is all being brought to you by Frank Warren on behalf of Queensberry in association with Boxer. We will first welcome to the scale from South Auckland, New Zealand. His professional record, 30 wins. 2 defeats with 21 of his 30 wins coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the former WBO heavyweight champion of the world, Joseph Parker.
Well, plenty of fans here for Joseph Parker. They call him Morecambe Joe. He's an adopted man up in these parts. Of course, this is actually his 3rd consecutive fight at the Manchester Arena. Former world heavyweight champion. They've really taken to him up here.
Yeah, he's been in some, why not? He's been in some good fights. He's one of boxing's nice guys, really is. And he's, I think since he's come to the British Isles, he's never looked better, to be honest with you. And he knows that, and I think that's why he stayed here.
255 pounds and 4 ounces for Joseph Parker.
255, that is a career high weight for Joseph Parker. That's more than he weighed against Derek Chisora. It was 251 against Derek Chisora in his last fight, which was his last career high.
He is a former Olympic silver medalist, and now as a professional is undefeated with 14 wins. 13 of his 14 wins come by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the undefeated former British, Commonwealth, European, and WBO International Heavyweight Champion, Joe the Juggernaut Joyce.
Well, there he is, the Juggernaut. Look in every part of the Juggernaut. Let's find out the weight.
271 pounds and 6 ounces.
Wow, 271 for Joe Joyce. Again, that is a career high. His last career high was against Michael Wallish, where it was deemed that maybe he was a bit out of shape against Michael Wallish. He didn't look out of shape up there, did he, Rick?
No, he looked solid. I think, to be honest, he looked the best shape I've seen him in, to be honest. And if he's gone heavy, just shows you that he knows he's in for a tough fight against Joe Parker. That goes without saying. You never know, even though he might be a little bit heavier, he just might have just put his foot down a little bit more, training-wise, weight, strength-wise, weight training-wise, you know what I mean? He just might have been, because he knows this is a very, very, very tough fight. This is his toughest fight, So I think that's why he might have just tightened things up a little bit more. That's why he looks so solid.
Well, both men are actually coming in.
Joe Parker looks in fantastic shape as well. Listen, these two, it's the perfect time for where they are in their career. These two boxers, Joe Joyce is on the crest of a wave. He's moving forward. He's on the verge of a world title. Like I say, Joe Parker's been there, bought the T-shirt. But it's a perfect time for both fighters for me, for where they are in their careers.
Box office, 12 rounds scheduled for the vacant WBO interim heavyweight championship of the world.
That WBO interim title in the middle, and now they face off for the final time.
We always say, don't we, what a handful and a unit Joe Joyce is. But I mean, you wouldn't want to have to, steal Joe Parker's dinner money either, would you? You know what I mean? There's not a massive difference in height there, is there? Not massive.
There's
and they both look two big guys. These.
I just wonder if there's shoes on, if there's trainers, because Parker he didn't look too much smaller than Joyce there. Whereas in previous face-offs, Joe Joyce is, you could
he's
tell
always
he's
dwarfed over, he's always towered over everyone, Joe Joyce, really. And I said earlier, he was in my gym last night, Joe Parker. I've met him several times, but I didn't realise, I forgot just how big he actually is himself. We're going on in this fight, talking in this fight about the size of Joe Joyce and what a handful he is. I think we've just forgot just how big a size Joe Parker is.
Well, I think we're going to bring them in. Let's get your reaction to the weights, and it's not so much about what the weights are, but it's the fact that both of them are heavier than they've ever been. If those scales are all correct, as they should be, both are heavier than they should. Well, let's ask the man himself. Joe Parker, how are we? That, I believe, is a career high weight for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think similar to my last fight. I was quite heavy for the second Chisora fight, but I think this is a career high for me.
So tell us why you've gone with your heaviest, because you look strong.
Listen, with the last performance with Chisora, I felt good, heavy, and I felt stronger, and I still had the stamina to go 12 rounds. This time I've done things better, and I'm still heavy, so I'm looking forward to, getting in the ring. A lot of talk's been done now, it's just time for action. Ricky knows. There's a lot of things you say before the fight, but you just can't wait to get in there and take care of business.
A lot of things with the weight, sometimes, it doesn't matter if in the heavyweights, if you're a little bit heavier, you know what I mean? It's the look, to be honest. I fought fighters at 10 stone, and I even though they made the fat weight at 10 stone, I thought he's not done it right. You can tell that he's not done the weight right. It's the look. I did the weight sometimes, and even though I trained hard, I'd still look fit and in shape. And then sometimes when I put my foot down that little bit more because of the size of the fight you're in, you just tighten things up a little bit. And I think that's what he's done. He knows that it's going to be a very, very tough fight, biggest fight of his career. And even though he's heavier, he don't look heavier. He looks solider.
I feel in good shape.
And that's because he knows what's on the line.
He's talking from experience.
No, of course. What did you say to him up there? I was surprised because you haven't really been going back and forth much. And then
all the best. I hope you've been training hard. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's challenge. It's going to be a great fight. You're looking ready. You're looking well. Let's get to business.
So it's quite sort of friendly-ish.
He's not a bad guy. He's a nice guy. We can't say a lot of things because we don't have the gift to say bad
things. If it's not in your nature, I was never a slanging match one at my press conferences or at the weigh-ins. I never was. If it's not in you, it's not in you.
It's not in you.
And I think if you start acting out of character, then it shows you're a little bit worried. But both confident for this fight, both looking really good. I can't, and their styles will gel. I think the fans are going to be in for a treat tomorrow.
And that should be the last time you see him before you see him in the ring. What can you take away from what you just saw?
Nothing. I just take away that I got a job to do. I got my plan in place and what I'm focused on. And as long as I rest well and get ready for the fight and listen to Andy and his instructions, there's no real point worrying about what he's going to do or what he's going to bring. We've already done all that through camp, sparring, training, watching him. So it's all going now.
Well, look, this will probably be the last time I ever ask you for a prediction on your fight with Joe Joyce. What is it?
I'm going to win. I'm going to win tomorrow night. and I'm going to have a good time, and I'm going to enjoy the night.
Rick, anything you want to ask Joe Parker before he goes?
No, just best of luck, to be honest. It's, I consider in boxing we're a family, do you know what I mean? And met Joe several times, he's a nice guy. Joe Joyce is a nice guy. I think this fight will be... I think there'll be nothing nice about the fight. The nice guys, but I don't think this fight... I think this fight is going to be an absolute barnstorm. I really do. I think the fans are in for the treat. And I'd just like to wish, Joe, all the best. Chase your dreams, my mate.
Thank you, Rick.
Pleasure, Joe.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you very much.
And I hope you
we'll
win
see you
tonight
tomorrow.
too.
You hope I win tonight too? What, have you got something lined up for me? Tomorrow,
yeah.
right. Thank you very much, Joseph Parker.
Yeah, mate.
Well, there he is. I think we'll get hold of Joe Joyce also very shortly, and they're not worried about coming in career high. He's good, isn't he?
Season campaigners, aren't they? Been there, bought the T-shirt. Joe's a former world champion. What's he going to get in the face snarling? If he did that, he'd probably encourage Joe Joyce because he'd be acting out of character, wouldn't he? So you know what I mean. I ain't going to see it again.
Let's bring in Ismail Salas. What did you make of the weigh-in, the face-off, the weights? I think that's the heaviest that we've seen Joe Joyce.
Yeah, it's enormous. No, we need to step over that guy. And Joe has been doing the very, very great training camp. You will see he will be even moving better and in control all the way long.
Well, for the Michael Wallish fight, he was deemed to be a little bit out of shape. I don't think you were over for that fight, but he came in quite heavy. He's heavier than that for this fight, but he looks in tremendous shape.
That is the key,
Let's speak to him. Let's bring him in. Mr.
key.
Juggernaut, how are you?
I'm here.
Ricky Hatton's here as well. Everyone keeps saying what a nice bloke you are, but there were a few words exchanged up there as well. What did you say to each other?
I don't know. He's just chatting crap to me, how's your team? Is your family okay? Are you I don't know. Is he trying to put stuff in my head or something? I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. Talking beep shit. Beginning with S.
That's your career heaviest weight so far. The last time we've seen you that heavy was the Michael Wallish fight, and there were sort of a few before and after memes going around because you were a bit heavy, a bit too soft that night. No, not soft this time. How do you feel at this weight?
I don't know. Maybe the hotel food's a bit too good, and but I'm ready. I'm fit. I'm ready. I'm strong, and my engine's there, and everything. The skills and stuff we've been working on, the sparring, everything's gone to plan. So I expect a great performance from myself, and I think so does my team.
You don't realise you do it when you're making weight. You say, he'd come in heavier than he did do, but when you're making the weight, when you know the challenging head of you don't realise you do it because you got the challenge. You just tighten up a little bit more on your food, a little bit more on your strength work. You just prepare that, and you don't realise you do it. That little bit better. Yeah. It's heavier, but it's solider.
Yeah.
Because he knows what's on the line. It's his biggest fight yet, and you just everything's just a little bit tighter from your road work, your weights.
And another thing, muscle weighs more than fat. So let me just put that out there as well.
Yeah, that is key.
I bet you are sick of the sight of him now. How many face-offs have you done with this man?
Yeah, too many. That was the third one, and that's enough. Oh my God, I've probably got to do another one in the ring. When he's looking across in the other corner.
You're just ready to go now, aren't you, Joe?
Yeah, ready to go, ready to fight. This is the last day, last night, sleep, and then I wake up, it's fight day.
This will be the last time I ask you for your fight prediction, I promise. But tell us it.
I'm just going to stick with my guns and say 7 to 8. 7 or 8.
Okay, anything we want to ask Joe before we let him go?
No, just like I said to Joe Parker, it's like in boxing we're a family, do you know what I mean? And met both lads, on several occasions, and they're two of the nicest guys you meet. Like I say, I don't think there'd be nothing nice about this fight. They're two proper pros. It's a big fight. They know what's on the horizon for them both, and they're gonna go for it. And whichever way it goes, I wish them all the best. You couldn't ask for two better guys, and this is going to be a. I think the styles will gel. I think the fans are going to be in for a real treat. Really do. All the best, Joe. Top man.
Good luck, Joe Joyce. We can't wait for it, and we'll see you tomorrow. Ismail Salas, thank you so much for joining us. Brilliant stuff, guys.
Good luck, mate. Top man. Seriously, mate. What? I know I'm getting there, keeping it up.
There you go. He's got exhibition coming up. What's Mayweather? Eh? Well, I think that probably concludes our weigh-in, unless anyone else is knocking about for a chat. But
no, I'm a few weeks yet before I get on that scale, so I'm halfway there.
So just finally, we've talked about how Joe Parker looked, and you've been up close to him as well. How did Joe Joyce look to you just then?
Exactly the same as I mentioned. I tend to repeat myself and say the same thing but it's true. They both come in heavier than they have done, but they look in the best shape that they've ever done, and that's because they know what's on the line. You just tighten your preparation up a little bit here and there. You just tweak it that little bit better. You always train hard, but if you think to yourself, well, I'm fighting Joe Joyce or I'm fighting Mr. Bean, which you train hard for them both, but which one do you put that little bit more in for? It goes without saying, and that's why they both look solid, and they know what they're going to do. The feeling that I got from both of them, they know when it's a big fight. They're both prepared. They couldn't have prepared any better. No, I think they just got to go out there and do it. They can't. There's no bad blood. There's no name calling. There's no eyeballing and everything like that. The season campaigners, they've been here too long now. I think it's a case of just in the meantime refueling. Keeping your game plan in your mind, you're trying to stay as relaxed as you can, and if you do that, you might get off to a good start. First bell, bang! You want to get off to a good start, don't you? And if you keep to your game plan, hold your nerves, and keep as relaxed as you possibly can. And to be honest with you, they both look as relaxed as each other there. To be honest with you, so no, certainly be interesting, and looking forward to tomorrow night now.
Final question: Joe Joyce is the betting favourite with Unibet, who of course are sponsoring this. He is the favourite. Do you agree with that? And what is your final prediction on this fight? I've got to get you off the fence, Rick. Come on, give me something.
I would say I get why they're probably putting Joyce slightly because he's unbeaten and he's coming, and Joe's had a couple of defeats, but. No, I think Joe Parker's been performing better than he's ever done since he's been moved over to Britain and been with Andy Lee. I think Joe Joyce is, as we mentioned, is a right handful. Style-wise is a nightmare, and whether Joe Parker can fathom that out will remain to be seen. But I think it will probably be Joseph Parker on points, where he'll be able to bank a few rounds, and if he can last home, Joseph Parker could probably win it on points, but I expect Joe to win a lot of the early rounds, but Joe Joyce will keep coming, and he could maybe force a late round stoppage if Joe Parker doesn't leave enough in the tank down the home straight. But if he does stop him late, I think he'll be down on points. He'll probably be behind on points in order to do it. So I think that's how I see it. Yeah.
I love it. It is one of those fights where you sort of make a prediction, then you think about it and be like, oh yeah, but also it could go the other way.
If you ask me, where you're going to put, you could put £1 on. I'd put 50p on Joyce, and I'd put 50p on him. It's a 50-50 fight. I get why they're probably edging Joyce a little bit, but he's in a happy place. Joe Parker, he's up there with Tyson. Andy Lee, great coach. He seems happy chappy, and I think he's performing since he's moved to Britain better than he's ever done in his career. And so hopefully it's going to be a good fight style-wise. I think it'll blend and clash it.
No, we can't wait for it. Let's bring in Joe Gallagher, who's been on the mic all week.
Good to see you, my friend.
Joe, did you stick around for the Joe versus Joe face-off and weigh-in?
Head-to-head.
What did you make of all of it?
I think at this stage of the fight now, all they want to do is get in there and fight. Both camps are very, very confident. They're both very relaxed. Like I said to you though when we were at the workout, Joe Joyce's size is impressive. And I've always said all week, it's like the UK George Foreman. Do you understand?
Do you agree with that, Ricky? UK George Foreman for Joe Joyce?
Yeah, a little bit. Joe. George Foreman was very hard to read. The punches come from unusual angles. Some of the moves that Joe does, you'd never teach. A kid walks in your gym for the first day, you'd never teach him how to punch like Joe does sometimes, but it works. Sometimes they slide to the left. You pretty much know what's coming. They slide to the right, they know what's coming, but he'll slide there, and it makes him awkward. And he's heavy-handed, constantly heavy-handed from start to finish. And I think Parker's biggest problem will he be able to get past that awkward jab? You know what I mean? It's solid, and it only travels that far. There, you know what I mean? It's
And it's if we can keep him off for 12 rounds as well, Ricky. We were speaking to Joe yesterday, and I was saying, listen, the general consensus is Joseph Parker's out of the gates, quick and running. It's 3 rounds to 1 up after 4 or 5. The juggernaut's got to come on more strong down the straight. And so if Joseph Parker can hang on or keep away from the shots, that'll keep him trapped on the ropes and everything
else. He's got to leave a little bit in the tank, can he, for down the home straight, I think. But he's got good feet for heavyweight, Joe. And I think he'll need them feet in order to close the distance a little bit, change your pace sometimes in order to get past that long jab, which he's got. But I've heard Joe Joyce is a handful, isn't he? He's a handful, you know. I think only the elite beat Joe Joyce.
Speaking to Ricky, I was trying to get a prediction out of him, and he's talking about Parker on points, and then he's like, but also maybe Joe Joyce can get to him as well. It's one of those fights where you keep talking it round and round in your head, and you can't really land a one.
Yeah. On Wednesday, I was the same as Joseph Parker. I can see how he can nick this with the work that we're doing Andy Lee. Quick punches, short shots, countering Joseph Parker and then smothering the work. Then yesterday, when you see the sides of Joe Joyce, you go, good Began beats a good little one. And then you're there today, and it is what way and what it goes. I think it'd be very, very interesting to Joseph Parker when he hits Joe Joyce, how Joe Joyce reacts, and vice versa. And the other way, does Joe Joyce's power, no matter where he hits him here on the side of it, and how Joseph Parker reacts? Does he go back in his shell? We've seen when he fought Anthony Joshua, he wasn't that keen to engage in the fight, and he was on the back foot. But I think the confidence by being in and around that Tyson Fury set up, being in and around it, being to the events, having Andy Lee, Sugar in the gym, I think it's just going to make him more confident, more better, more belief in him. And I won't be surprised Sunday morning you woke up and Joseph Parker's won on points in a split decision. It's that type of fight.
It also wouldn't surprise me if Joseph Parker's in front and banked a load of rounds, and Joe Joyce gets him down the home straight. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I'd think what maybe he should do is, if he stays inside, maybe work the body a little bit, because I think Joe Joyce is when he's up close. I don't think he's very good up close, but I mean, getting in close is another matter, isn't it? Yeah. But I think if he's not really a body puncher, Joe Parker, but if he concentrates on the body a little bit more than he normally would, that might.
Do you agree with that, Joe?
No, definitely. Steve Gray's the referee, and we've said Steve Gray, he's got to be very strong in this fight. He's got to allow, when Joe Joyce gets up close, allow Joe Joyce work. Joseph Parker will be wanting to smother and claim. We also seen in the second fight how cute he was with the right uppercut, Joseph Parker, and that's a shot that Joe Joyce is quite open for, whether everyone keeps going, he's got the best chin in boxing, not the best title to win, but and I know, Ricky, a shot round the ribs, a shot on the temple can scramble anybody's legs.
If you don't drop him to the knees, that long-lasting effect over the rounds, that winds you down. So that's why I say, I wouldn't say he has to sit in there and body punch away, for the whole 12 rounds, but a little bit more than you normally would. Yeah. Because that's going to be a problem, isn't it? Could be a part. Heavyweight boxing, anyone can get chin. We know that. But I mean, if he could stay on that body a little bit more than he normally would, I think that would stand him in good stead in the longer scheme of things and stop him in his tracks a little bit more.
So for Joe Parker to have success, both of you guys have said about the referee, and the referee needs to kind of let him go to work on the inside. We've seen that your fight against Floyd Mayweather, you weren't allowed to fight your fight and get on the inside. So for him to have success, he needs a kind of a referee that just sort of lets it go.
Let the flow go, let the play go. Joseph Parker, when he gets closer, will be able to step into him, claim, hold, wait for the ref to break. Which I'd most probably tell him to. You don't want him sitting on the ropes letting Joseph Parker unload on you, Joe Joyce unloading on you. So that's it. So Steve Gray's got to allow him do that, but at the same time, it'd be interesting up close where Joe Joyce's shots land. Will there be complaints of fouls, back of the head? It's a very good fight. He punches wide. We've seen him in the workout. He's looking for the shots down. Joseph Joyce isn't a kid like he said off Mayweather's got a catch and return. It is what it is. He stood there right in front of you. You can't miss him. Joseph Parker can close his eyes and throw a jab and most probably land. That's the type of kid. But it's what's coming back and the reaction of Joe Joyce's powers that how we've got to see if, as the saying goes, everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. And this is one of them cases when Joseph Joyce starts throwing shots at Joseph Parker.
Well, let's bring in the Jackal, Carl Frampton, a man who has been...
All right, Joe.
A man who's been in the middle.
Good to see you, my friend.
Just come in here a little bit. You were doing the BT Sport face-off when Joe Joyce famously tickled the knuckle of Joseph Parker. What was your reaction?
It was actually a better face-off than I expected it to be. I thought I was going to have to work really hard because they're two nice guys and clearly have a lot of respect for each other. But as soon as they sat down, they were at it, and hammering each other a wee bit. It was funny as well though, because they're not aggressive guys. It was out of character, and it was a wee bit cringy as well at times. But it was good crack. I enjoyed it.
What did you make of the weigh-in? The weights both have come in heavier than they've ever come in.
I didn't realise it was heavier than they've ever come in. I knew it was heavier than their last fight, and I think that kind of indicates that both guys know it is going to be a difficult fight. It probably suggests that.
Tightened up a bit,
but they didn't look soft. They looked in good shape. I probably suggest that Parker isn't going to move as much as people would think. I think he will at points in the fight, and certainly at the start anyway. But I think there's going to be a stage where he has to stand and fight, and that's what he'll be ready for.
Could that be to his detriment if he has a stand and trade up with Joe Joyce?
It could be, obviously, but it could also, he could have real periods of success, because we all know Joe doesn't have the best defence in the world. Joe Joyce I'm talking about, and he can be hit pretty clean, but up until this point in his career we haven't seen anything affect him, but it's got to catch up with him at some point. And it could be tomorrow night.
It's like chopping a tree down over the years. And don't forget, he's had a lot of look at how many miles on the clock with his amateur career and all. Do you know what I mean? It could be the night where it could go. You never know, do you?
I need to get some advice off Ricky Hatton about losing weight. You're looking well, mate.
They said, what have you done with your weight? I said, I lent it, Joe.
Right of reply, Joe. Go on.
No, listen. It's all right. I'll get him back.
One of the things that Andy Lee said in an interview I was watching yesterday, people talk about how Joe Joyce hasn't been hurt. He said he's seen him hurt. He thinks he was hurt in the Christian Hammer fight, and he sort of bluffed it and got through it. Do you think you've seen Joe Joyce ever hurt?
I was sitting ringside in the Hammer fight, and to me it looked like them shots didn't have much of an effect. To be honest, I'm sure Andy Lee's probably watched it more times than I have, so he may have seen something that I missed. But I think there was rumours that he was. It is rumours, but I think he may have been dropped as an amateur or sparring up with AJ. Maybe was it? Is that right? AJ's a serious puncher, but if you're getting hit with big gloves and a head guard on and hurt, it shows you that you're not the indestructible guy that a lot of people think you are.
Yeah, and when I boxed Kostya Tszyu, the punches, he was a mud, bounced off me, and the punches I got, not the Pacquiao fight, but the punches that sometimes shut me up a little bit, as I went on, the Mayweather fight, stuff like that, wasn't half as solid as the ones Kostya Tszyu did. But when a few years earlier, when you fight, chips away at you, your resistance, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
I also think, Ricky, with that, you were saying the Kostya Tszyu, I think when you have got that mindset, that stealing mindset, you're not going to be beat, and that's in you. Like Macklin used to say, you could be fighting King Kong, you're not going to be down. So there were good shots, but because you were so tunnel visioned, that was it. So Joseph Parker, when the bombs start landing, is he that tunnel visioned with the WBO interim fight to go through it? It's all down into the mental. Same with Carl's been in big fights, and sometimes he's felt shots, and you think, wow, how have I took them? But it's just like water for ducks back. It's like, nah, I'm seeking to destroy. A bit of a Hagler mentality, seek and destroy. So you don't really feel them. But when you're not really fancying the fight, and you get caught a shot or two, you go, nah, this isn't for me tonight, because the fire in the belly's gone a little bit. And them earlier shots that you would took years ago, you can't take now, but it's because it was the appetite that you had for it then. It was the quest, the goal to become a champion. That plays a big part. It's mentally as well.
I think that's why it'll be a good fight, because I think both guys are mentally prepared for this fight.
They'll be up for this,
they know it's a huge fight, and the opportunities after this fight are massive for both of them. So I can't see it being anything other than a good fight.
If they're going to go through the pain barrier, them two are going to do it tomorrow night, aren't they? We'll watch that stadium.
Do you agree with what Joe said there about the later a career goes on, sometimes you start feeling shots that you wouldn't have felt earlier on in your career?
Yeah, I know all about that. Josh Warrington, who's not a notorious puncher by any stretch of the mean, I've never been hit that hard in my life. Jamel Herring, who is a bigger guy than me but not a huge puncher, hurt me a couple of times in that fight. So I think, as you get older, it happens. I suppose the more you've been hit repeatedly over years, that has a detrimental effect as well. I think something that's really interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how Joyce deals with it. I think Parker has the fastest hands out of anyone that he's fought yet, and it's maybe not the biggest puncher in the world.
He's going to
but
find the target regularly.
He'll find the target, and he's fast. It's the ones you don't see that often do the damage.
We agree with that, guys. Any final sort of comments?
No, I think it's a trade fight, isn't it? You know, if you know your boxing, you know that styles make fights. You know what Joe Parker's capable of. He's in a happy family now, isn't he? Up there with Tyson and all that. Andy Lee, great coach. They were in my gym last night and having his last shakeout. Looks a very, very knowledgeable coach. They were all laughing and joking, nice and, mind on the job, but nice and relaxed. Which I've no doubt Joe Joyce will be the same, but it's a real trade fight, you know what I mean? It's a good one. Well worthy of the Manchester Arena, yeah.
The WBO interim title added to it now just raises his bar a little bit. And Manchester Arena...
Then they fight Usyk, don't they, no? Is it?
Well, that's right. Yeah, if Usyk doesn't fight, so that's adding a little bit more to it. But Manchester Arena, you were king of the arena for numerous years. Carl, you've been at the headline out of the arena. It's a fantastic venue. We've got a great fight, and this is, I think, it's got to be one of them Manchester nights. We've seen it down the years, the great fights there, Crotch Groves, everything else, and I think this has got to be one of them.
This is worthy of it, yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to come around to each of you, and I just want one-word answers. Okay, no sitting on the fence. So it's either going to be Joyce or Parker. Carl.
Draw.
It is a one-word answer, to be fair.
It could be a draw. Genuine. It's going to be close either way. And I actually said Parker points a few minutes ago, but I'm unsure. I'm really unsure. So, it's worth a pound, a draw.
Well, you put that pound on with Unibet, by the way, guys. Ricky, one-word answer.
Go on.
I'm going to go again. I think everyone's edging slightly to Joyce. I think Parker might hold out. I think he might hold out.
Joe?
Looking at the size of him, I just think Joe Joyce's power sooner or later will catch up with. Got to keep my voice down behind her. Keep Joe Parker. But I wouldn't be surprised, like I say, if they come out with great tactics and he hangs on there for 114, 114, 114, 113 type of scorecard. It's a great fight. Not only that, though, the undercard, some brilliant fights on it, just before we finish, some brilliant fights on it. Amanda Serrano in Manchester, unbelievable. I was like starstruck the other day with it.
His legs went all funny when he faced Serrano.
Man fighting Antwerp of the British. I mean, there's some great fights. Flatley even on the bill against Hainer. There's some great fights. Kakatsa, we all know how good Kakatsa is and how well he is. You've had him in the camp yourself. Good fight. He's got to deliver now, so it's a great show top to bottom.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Carl, for joining me. Thank you, Joe, for joining us. Thank you, Ricky, for doing the entire duration.
Pleasure.
We are live, BT Sport Box Office, Saturday night. It's an absolute cracker. It's two of the very best heavyweights in the world. This has been Ricky the Hitman Hatton. Ricky, just give us a little reminder. You got your own exhibition coming up. When's that coming up?
November 12th, Marco Antonio Barrera at the Manchester Arena. It should have been July 2nd, and I think a few people out there, it got postponed to November 12th. It's always been November 12th. But I think a few people still aren't sure, but it's November 12th, and it's going to be, the undercard's going to be announced shortly, but it's definitely November 12th, and look forward to seeing you again, Manchester.
Well, that'll be Ricky Hatton's big night back in Manchester, November 12th, and we've got a huge one tomorrow night. Joe Joyce, Joe Parker, WBO Interim Heavyweight Championship, and a stellar undercard, including Amanda Serrano. Unification fight. We'll see you tomorrow.
Joe Joyce, Joe Parker. Why are these two giants with us here?
Because these two giants are going to fight each other and see who's the best giant.
Listen, I'm very excited to be signing with Boxer and Sky.
Joe Parker's not the ranked number one. He's not the mandatory. Joe Joyce is. This is the Joe Joyce business. You want to get that spot, you've got to beat Joe Joyce.
Why don't we just make the fight happen? Just because he's on BBC Sports and I'm on Sky doesn't mean we can't make it happen.
It's hard to be one of the greats, whatever it takes. Put that on the plate. Life is a gamble, we raising the stakes. Moving the bar up so high. Been on our grind for life. Bringing the light, you just so bright. We shining.
Edging closer to the inner circle. Just got Joe Parker to beat.
Changing the world with this rhyme and this price.
A lot of people don't want to fight Joe Joyce because he's got an engine on him and he can take a punch and he can do a lot of damage.